For over 2 centuries, the British Empire operated on a very specific historical assumption. To justify ruling a vast subcontinent, they framed India as a place frozen in time, a chaotic, backward region in need of Western order. You can see this logic in the writings of influential English philosophers like John Stuart Mill. Even while championing democracy at home, Mill promoted tolerant imperialism, arguing that British rule was a moral necessity to civilize the East. That narrative held strong until the 1920s. That's when Indian archaeologists Dayaram Sani and R.D. Banerjee began digging in the Punjab and Sindh regions. They were investigating old mounds, expecting to find remnants of a medieval outpost. Instead, what emerged from the dust was a 4,500-year-old metropolis. They had uncovered Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, the centers of the Indus Valley Civilization, an urban society that matched ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia in scale. Unearthing a high-functioning urban society in the heart of India challenged the core of the colonial justification. The discovery proved the subcontinent was a center of global innovation long before the British arrived, forcing historians to ask where this incredibly advanced society actually came from. The answer requires rewinding long before those cities were built, to the Paleolithic era. During the Ice Age, early humans in the region survived by using rough stone tools to hunt, taking refuge in natural rock shelters across the Deccan Plateau and the Vindhya Mountains. Around 12,000 years ago, the ice began to melt. The climate grew warmer and more humid, creating sprawling grasslands. To survive this new environment, those early inhabitants had to rethink how they hunted. They began crafting microliths, miniature stone flakes that could be attached to wood or bone to make spears and arrows. With these precise tools, they could hunt smaller, faster animals. And instead of just hunting, they started domesticating wild dogs, sheep, and goats, studying their breeding cycles and habits. We know this because they recorded it. Using natural pigments, these communities painted scenes of their hunts, their dances, and the local wildlife directly onto the walls of their caves. These early adaptations show that the ancient inhabitants of India were not merely surviving. They were observing, engineering new tools, and actively manipulating their environment to stack the odds of survival in their favor. That drive to engineer the environment reached a critical threshold during the Neolithic agricultural revolution. Instead of moving constantly to forage, people figured out how to domesticate plants. They became food producers. They began cultivating crops like rice, wheat, and cotton. But a massive harvest is useless if it rots. To store this new surplus of grain, they invented baked clay pottery, allowing communities to plan their survival months or even years in advance. This chart shows the timeline of agricultural output, comparing the low yield of stone tools to the efficiency spike from early copper tools. By discovering how to smelt metal during the Chalcolithic era, farmers could clear dense forests and till the earth far more effectively. With superior tools producing a reliable surplus of food, people no longer had to migrate. They settled down, building the very first permanent mud brick villages, like the early settlements at Mehrgarh. Mastering agriculture and metallurgy provided a massive calorie surplus. That surplus allowed populations to boom, laying the socio-economic infrastructure required to scale these small villages into massive urban centers. Thousands of years of trial and error culminated around 2600 BCE in the mature Harappan phase. These villages exploded into sprawling cities. The organization is staggering. They laid streets in strict right-angled grids, using mathematically standardized baked bricks across the entire civilization. This schematic shows their underground wastewater system. Water flows down a vertical pipe into a settling pool. Heavy sediment drops to the bottom, letting clean water enter the main drain. They engineered a way to prevent clogged sewers, a standard of sanitation unseen for centuries. They applied this same mastery of engineering to public architecture. The Great Bath at Mohenjo-daro was a massive rectangular pool, constructed with finely fitted bricks, sealed with natural bitumen to make it waterproof. Survival was so secure that artisans had the resources to perfect their art. They used lost wax casting techniques to create intricate bronze sculptures, capturing a vivid picture of the people who inhabited these streets. The archaeological record shows a society driven by commerce, not war. Merchants used these carved steatite seals, stamped with animal figures and a pictographic script, to authenticate goods traded as far away as Mesopotamia. Every row of brick and every drainage pipe points to the same conclusion. This urban complexity was the direct result of hundreds of thousands of years of indigenous Indian innovation. But by 1900 BCE, the record shows something alarming. These meticulously planned cities slowly began to empty out, their grand structures left to crumble. For decades, European historians blamed this collapse on an outside invasion, but modern excavations have found no evidence of mass battles, no layers of ash from widespread burning, and no influx of foreign weapons. This map illustrates the scientific consensus. As shifting monsoons and tectonic disruptions severely reduced the water supply, the Ghaggar-Hakra river network began drying up. The civilization was crippled by severe climate change. Without the reliable river systems that allowed their crops to thrive, the dense urban populations migrated eastward into the Ganges plains. They transitioned back into rural farming communities, leaving their cities to be swallowed by the earth. Mapping this unbroken timeline, from survival in Stone Age caves to the engineering of the Great Bath, demonstrates that the Indian subcontinent was an autonomous, pioneering cradle of human civilization.